Well, hello, Arisha agus fáilte go hagran Ella do Music at Maddens. Welcome to our Music at Maddens podcast with me, Lynette Fay. We're up here upstairs in one of the busiest bars in Belfast, the home of traditional music in the city. And through this series, we're profiling members of the traditional music community. This is a not-for-profit podcast, and all profits go towards scholarships and bursaries for teenagers who want to learn music and the Irish language. And we do appreciate your support. So if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, do give us a like, give us a rating, leave a message, and you can also follow us on Patreon and join our community. And this week, I'm absolutely delighted to have this man in the snug. I'm telling you, and I don't know where this conversation is going to go. We've got a multi-talented man from Lough, County Armagh with us. He's a songwriter, a storyteller, a singer of conscience. He's a multi-instrumentalist, an artist. Too talented, to be honest. Barry Kerr is in the snug. False road, Barry.
Come on, get that.
Oh my God, where do we even start?
I don't know. I was just thinking there that my bum probably fits in some of these seats better than it does in my own house. I've spent that many years playing in this place.
You're giving us an idea here. We'll just inscribe it. Barry Kerr sat here, was here. But I think that is the best place to start, is here in Maddens. You know, when you lived in Belfast for years, Barry, played music here for years in the city.
Yeah.
What did this place mean to you?
Oh, it's a very special place, Lynette. Like, if I was trying to think when I first actually came here. I think I was maybe 16, maybe 15 or 16. My dad took me down, maybe round to see Sam Murray or, you know, to get the flute fixed and what I end up in here, you know. But Belfast is a very special place for music, you know, and always has been. Great players and characters around, and people in this pub know music, you know. It's it gets great respect, and you know, and it's also a wonderful place to play. Like, you know, these snugs, you know, if they could talk, you know.
I know I suppose that is the whole point of this podcast, is getting people in who usually are, you know, part of the fabric of this place and hearing their stories, because when you come in here, you can't possibly get the sit down conversation with people because there's that much going on. There's a great community around this bar as well.
Great, yeah. You know, no matter where in the world I end up, or, you know, I always love dipping my toes back in through the door. But, you know, there's an atmosphere, and the people, the bar staff, the musicians, you know, it is a community, you know. Gaelgory, you know, that's just class. But
Yeah, it's everything. You said your dad brought you down to Belfast there when you were about 16 or so, and then you had the Cayley House in
Yeah.
Lurgan as well at the time.
uh,
What was that like to be growing up in that, you know, surrounded by that? Because the Cayley House in Lurgan back in that time, Barry, was again another community, a hub for musicians coming and going. And how do you think that has left its imprint on you as a musician, obviously, and as a person?
it's at that time my dad wanted to set up something kind of probably similar to what was going on in here. He wanted a place where musicians could come in at any time of the day and feel like they could just sit down and play a tune, and nobody would, you know, give them
Dominate it.
hassle or you know, and to be fair to him, he did kind of create that, you know. It's not an easy thing to do, you know, especially at that time, you know, when all was going on, and even here, like this place would have been an island among, you know, in the city for, you know, a quiet place and all the madness, you know, and the Cayley House was kind of a bit like that too, you know, and but my dad managed to bring people from near and far to play in it, and the best of the best played in it, you know. Like, we had some great nights up there. Great weeks. Sometimes we didn't leave it. Closed the door and that was it. So it'll be missed, you know. It's missed now, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of great young musicians came out of Lurgan because of it, I think, you know.
And was there, you know, at that time, you're saying there, you know, the young musicians come out of it because of the pub. what, you know, when you think back to that time, what did it feel like to be part of that, you know, and in those really impressionable teenage years where, you know, your opinion of life is forming, Barry, to have that around you and to be kind of immersed in that, what was that like for you?
I know it was exciting, like, and as a young fella, to have your own, basically your own venue that you can come and go, and invite all your mates and have them, like I would have went to Milltown Malby, for this couple of weeks during the summer or whatever, and by the end of the summer, half of Milltown had been up in our house. It was kind of because the never ending summer. It's like we were living down in Kennigo on the Lough, and I had a mobile home at the side of the house, and the musicians and all used to stay in there, but it just used to go on for days. Like, and I meet people on the road, like, now, people that would have been up there, and just, can you remember staying in my mobile home, my caravan, the side of the house? It's very, very funny, some stories, like.
Yeah, there is a kind of streak of madness involved with being involved in traditional music in some way, isn't there?
Totally, yeah.
If you just have to go with the flow
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
and you never know where it kind of leads you to.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you mightn't see somebody for years, but these stories and yarns and the crack that we all have through the thing, it's, you can't buy it really.
No, not at all. Lough then, you've just brought us very naturally there to the shores of Lough, Barry. It has a very special place in your heart, and we'll talk about the new album in a minute or two, because definitely Lough is to be felt. It's very prominent in your songwriting, always has been. What did it mean to you to, you know, have that experience of growing up on the shores of the Lough?
I think it's everything for, like, it's something that I tap into, all the time for inspiration, and it's my favorite place in the world, really. My ma's people are from Casters Bay, which just they say Lough now, and I grew up on it, shooting duck and fishing and poaching and doing all sorts of stuff, that probably shouldn't have been at, but it's a very beautiful place, and to see what is happening to it now in real time is kind of heartbreaking. It's the worst thing, really.
Mm.
And I think it's like, we when we look at the environmental crisis that's happening all over the world, very, very often we look away to foreign lands, and it's very distant to us. It's like something that happens on the news. It's far away, and it doesn't. But with this, it's like it's playing out in our own place now. And it's real, and it's happening. And for anybody to deny that these things are happening is kind of, I think it's misguided, and dangerous too. It's kind of, so hopefully we'll find some solutions soon, because it's not looking good.
Yeah, and that, you know, that experience of having the Lough so close to you, and you know, waking up in the morning and that was the first thing you saw, looking out onto the Lough. It seems to me that that's given you such a real deep, meaningful relationship with nature, with place,
Yeah.
which is a, such a big part of who you are as a person and as an artist.
Yes, definitely. And like, I was very aware growing up, like, I always kind of gravitated towards kind of old people and old characters and all, and I love that. Like, and within traditional music, you have that as well. There's this real connection between the generations. And then if you take it further, the songs go back, you know, even to people who aren't around now, but they're talking about the same things that you recognize. Like, the songs around the Lough. I know all those places. I know what they're singing about. I know the accent that they're singing in because it's my own. So it makes you feel really connected even further going back, if that makes sense. These people are alive in the songs, that, their ideas, the things that they sang about, the problems that they faced, I can still relate to a lot of that, even in our present times, and more so now because of, in those songs they were singing about the beauty of the Lough and the trout and salmon, and but now we're at this place where my kids might not get to see this,
And you can't put your foot in it.
and I learned to swim in it, you know, um, you couldn't go in for a swim in it now. You know, which is really sad and heartbreaking. And to me, it seems like there's a link in the chain that's really being broken here. You know, if that makes sense.
It
You know,
does.
just with, you know, all of that stuff that we have inherited. You know, those beautiful songs and music, and then the nature itself. You know, I spoke to someone there recently about when I was a kid. I used to shoot duck in the wintertime with my dad, and the horizon of the loch would have been almost black with migratory birds from Russia and Scandinavia. And they come in their thousands, you know. So shooting the odd duck for your dinner, you know, it didn't ever seem like it was never a problem, you know, it was just part of the, you know, life. But now those ducks don't come. And it's not the shooter's fault, you know. It's they don't come because there's no food in the loch, because
It's
of
dying.
what has happened, and also because of probably global warming as well. You know, they don't have to come because it doesn't get as cold. So these things, you know, if you're living there and all, or you spend time out in nature, you notice these things, and but it just seems that it doesn't cut through until, you know, there's a catastrophe. You know, it doesn't make the news till there's a catastrophe, and then what do you do? Like, you know, you know?
It's hard to pedal back. Makes it all the more difficult.
Yeah.
You're talking there about that appreciation for older people, the stories, the connection going back. Um, you know, that idea that the social is intertwined with the history, you know, and this running commentary that you get through songs.
Yeah.
You're now adding your voice to that canon, with your songwriting, Barry, because your songwriting cuts through so many aspects of life. When did you start writing songs?
I think started writing songs when I was maybe about 18 or 19, I'd say. Um, that's like I said, I didn't really start singing until that time either. But there was always, you know, there was always songs around, and you know, I always loved singing. But I think some of my early songs, you know, might have been political, or they might have been, you know, I don't know what's the word. I was young and naive with a lot of the stuff that I was writing, probably. But you know, I look back,
But it's
and
what you're
you know,
feeling though too,
exactly, you
doesn't
know,
it? It stamps the time in your life, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. But then, as I got into it more, you know, I really enjoyed the writing part of it. You know, still do. You know, it comes in waves. So you know, I don't, you know, but find it difficult enough just to sit down and try and pick one out of the ether. You know, I'd nearly have to have some sort of idea come to me, or you know, and the best ones generally happen really quickly. You know, it's kind of,
Yeah.
I do believe that we're channeling some, you know, something else. You know, that you know, this communal thing, whatever it is that we're connected to, that, you know, and you're the vehicle for it to come out, really, without sounding too hocus pocus. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but they come to you because your song, a song that I loved, because I remember you sent it to me, and when I worked in the radio, and I just thought, oh Barry, this is just deadly. Those were the days.
Uh,
And now to see the likes of Pierce Larkin taking that on, and you know, making
uh,
it his own, and you know, that song going from place to place. And
yeah.
remember having Mickey Coleman and Aaron Loughran here on the podcast, and I told somebody that you know, the song was written about, you know, it's them, they're the Mickey and Margie's girl, that you know, that's them in the song, and they couldn't believe it. But that ability that you have, and then what's it like for you though to see the song, you know, taking on a new life, because lots of people have taken on your
I
songs.
think that's my favorite thing. I love, like, that song there. Like, I didn't expect it to move at all. Like, you know, I wrote that song and recorded it on tour when I was out in America. You know, and it's about being in the Bronx with Mickey and Aaron and their family, and you know, it ended up being, you know, young Pierce took it on, a couple of other people have took it on, and it's flying now. You know, and now I'm getting emails from folk groups in Australia singing it, and young lads, you know, who have emigrated out of here, and they're, you know, it's taken a whole life of its own, and I love that. I love hearing the different versions of it, and
But you've got this great ability in your songwriting, though, to step back and really observe things. And immigration's something that you're really strong on as well over the years. You've written a lot of songs about immigration because of your experience. Not that you ever immigrated, but you were on tour for substantial
I
amounts of time.
no,
So you had the experience.
I did, yeah. I spent a lot of time out in America, and I was always encountering, most of my friends, a lot of them were Irish and had left and never were able to come back. Even some of
I
them,
were undocumented as
So it
well.
was like
Yeah.
there was always definitely that ran through a lot of the songwriting. Yeah, that's why I love the old songs as well, because they all have the same, we think that we've moved on and we live in this modern world and things have changed, but if you really dig deep in those songs, we're still experiencing the same things, and I think that's the beauty about traditional music. It's kind of universal themes to it all, and you know you can find things in those songs, that relate to you, even though the writer of the song might be long lost and gone to history. You might, yeah.
When you dig down a bit,
Aye.
it's all there. You're just kind of press and refresh, aren't you?
Aye, kind
And
of.
bringing it up to date
Yeah.
for yourself and your generation. So songs to the side. When I introduced you there, Barry, like really, there's an embarrassment of riches there. Songwriter, singer, multi-instrumentalist. When did you start playing music?
It started when I was about 12, I think. Maybe there was always music in the house. Like my dad played a wee bit. There was always instruments lying around, and there was a lady called Bernie O'Neill. Bernie Smith would have been her maiden name. Taught me the whistle. Great player. She would have been one of the first students, I'd say, at the Armagh Pipers Club. So Bernie used to come to the house, and then I met Seamus Tansey not long after, the great Sligo flute player, and he used to come to our house on his bike, maybe once or twice a week, and it was great. It was great to have him around, because that wealth of that music, that Sligo music that he had, and the stories and the crack and the lies and the mayhem that all went with Seamus.
But you see, at that young age, like when you're a teenager, it's for us now looking back at these great people, and you recognize their value and their worth and all. But whenever you're a teenager, you've just got this relationship with somebody who just who you're just invested in and you think is deadly. What was that like? To have that sort of influence on your music, and that help and that mentoring. I suppose, was he a mentor to you?
He was surely, but I often speak of this, like he wasn't a teacher in the sense of, he would have give you a tune to learn and you had to have it for next week and you had to learn this variation. It wasn't like that at all. It was just like, he would sit in the room and he would tell you some yarn about something, and he would play a tune and you'd try and pick it up, or you'd record it anyway, and then so it was more of this osmosis kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like which is a great way for any kid to learn. And if I teach now at festivals and things like that, I kind of try to give them as much a context for whatever you're teaching them as possible, because they'll take that away. If they have a yarn attached to something, it'll be more meaningful
Yeah.
than just the dots on the page.
Yeah.
And I think Irish music is great for that, because I think that's part of the joy in it, in that we recognise all these heroes of the tradition,
Yeah. And also I think it's a good kind of point of reference as well where you start. I'm thinking these bells are never going to stop here.
Yeah.
Somebody's having a good old practice round the corner.
Saying a few prayers for me while they're at it.
Seamus Tansey calling you from on high.
I tell you.
God rest you, Seamus.
Yeah.
But you're saying about reference points there. Where nowadays, could you imagine what you would have been like when you were a teenager if we had the internet as prominently in our lives as it is
I
now?
don't know.
Like, could you imagine the rabbit holes you'd have been away down?
Yeah. There probably would have been a knock on my door for something that. No, I'm so glad I didn't have that kind of distraction. I was more interested in being outside and stuff anyway. I kind of climbing trees and,
All the good stuff,
whatever.
Barry.
Just I was always lost to that. I just used to walk in the fields for hours and go out in the boat and whatever, just kind of.
Do you know what? We're going to take a break here because these bales seem to have gone on forever. Let's just stop the conversation now with Barry Kerr here on this week's Music at Maddens podcast, and we'll hear a word or two from our sponsors. Agus clacimid brisú anish le couple of focal of ogging o urahori and fad crealta. A couple of words now from the sponsors of this week's podcast, Music at Maddens. And Ardra Single Malt Irish Whiskey is a heavily peated, triple distilled, all grain in whiskey that signals a bold revival of Donegal's lost distilling tradition. Ardra Single Malt Irish Whiskey has already been awarded a gold medal at the Irish Whiskey Masters 2025 in the Single Malt Super Premium category, and it's a true product of place. This whiskey, it's uncompromising in character, and for over a century, regional distinctions in Irish whiskey has been lost, replaced by conformity. But Ardra Single Malt Irish Whiskey breaks this trend, reclaiming Donegal's distinctive character, made with the heavily peated malted barley, distilled with the grain in matured, sherry forward in American bourbon and virgin oak casks. And to learn more about Ardra Single Malt Irish Whiskey, you can check out the Ardra Distillery on Instagram at Ardra Distillery. Also sponsoring this week's Music at Maddens is Boatyard Distillery, situated on the banks of Lough in County Fermanagh, dedicated to producing the best gin on the island of Ireland. Its Boatyard Double Gin, which has been made with martinis in mind, is pouring in some of the best bars around the world. And Boatyard is proudly B Corp, becoming the first B Corp certified distillery in Ireland in February 2023, underlining its commitment to social and environmental performance, accountability and transparency. The team works closely with local farmers, uses organic ingredients wherever possible, and designs their processes to reduce waste and impact. And we ask you to drink responsibly and over 18s only. Barry Kerr, you just mentioned the Armagh Pipers Club in passing there, and mentioned one of your teachers. How important was the Armagh Pipers Club to you? How did you discover it?
Well, I didn't go to classes as such in it, really, although I was indirectly taught by Bernie, but I was always up at the events and stuff, and I ended up teaching there for a few years myself, and what Brian and Etna have created is magnificent. People, what they have done for Irish music in this country, it'll be written about in 100 years' time. They have just created this magical ecosystem where kids learn music for the sake of music, and not through the competitive route or anything like that there. And they give kids kind of access and exposure to the very best of traditional music, whether it be Irish music or Scottish music or music, piping from across Europe. It's a really magnificent thing.
How key was that to you, particularly because you play the flute and the pipes, you play guitar, you play so many instruments, but particularly with the flute and the pipes, when you were joining the dots that this tradition wasn't just in Ireland, this was a tradition that existed and was extremely rich in so many other countries. I can imagine learning that, or when the penny drops, that's just mind-blowing.
No, it's I have a wide and varied taste in music. I listen to all sorts, but I think the first time that I kind of caught on that I liked I love Scottish music, but I love Breton music as well. Coming to Belfast, there would have been gigs where Jean-Michel Villon and Cornog and all of these, and their music was really it was kind of the cool kids were playing it at the time too, so I would have had an interest in all of that too, but as I say, Brian and Etna would have encouraged the young people to listen to all sorts and recognise themselves and other people's music as well.
But then all the while, though, very much keeping that northern stamp.
100%.
I know
Yeah.
the Ulster stamp on every single thing you
Yeah.
do. Like,
Yeah.
how important is that to you, particularly now?
Yeah.
You know, you're living in Connemara. You're a very proud Armagh man
Yeah.
and Ulster man. Like, how important is that to your music?
No, I like, as I said earlier, like I think it's an accent. I think that, you know, it comes out in you. You know, you're what you were reared with or whatever. You know, it seeps in and it comes out in your music and songs. And as I say, I have reference points in songs from, you know, that I kind of look to and I go, you know, that's where you need to. If you hang around there, you'll not go too far wrong. You know, like you know, like I heard that song that I heard a few years ago from Mickey. He put me on the Neely Coney's version of it, "The Turn the Swallow." Like to me, that's a perfect song. Like because it mentions the loch and there's a beautiful melody to it, and mentions, you know, it also mentions all the rivers in America that I've seen and all of that. So there's these connections that I have in the songs. But then when I go to write my own, I go, you know, if you're staying around that sort of area, you're gonna, you know, it's gonna stick because people will believe you then. You know, if you're writing about what you know, you're not telling any lies. Well, you might tell the odd one, but you know, it's more likely that people will believe you, and I think that's important. You know, I think if I'm listening to a singer, you know, aside from how technically skillful they are or anything like that, I think my first, you know, my first thing is, do I believe the person or not? Do I believe, you know, what they're singing about? You know.
It's what we're talking about these days. It's very kind of trendy to be talking about authenticity,
Yeah.
but it's been there all along.
Aye.
That whenever somebody speaks their truth to you, there's a seriously powerful connection there that you can't doubt.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
You know, and the older I get, the more away from the tricks and bells and whistles I try to steer as well. I kind of you know, but
It's that ability to be able to take the step back. I think that comes with age, doesn't it? Though, when you're younger, you want to be immersed in everything.
Yeah.
You want to be just in the middle of it all and consuming it all.
Yeah.
Bring it on. And then when you get a wee bit older, being able to take the step back and observe is a very powerful thing, isn't
that's
it?
great. Yeah, it kind of gives you a bit of freedom too. You know.
Yeah.
I recorded that. You know, that's recent album is very sparse and kind of. You know, there's 20 other songs could have made it to this record that didn't. You know, because I just wanted a mood to run through the thing, and it ended up being very pared back and just as natural as I could make it. You know, so that I can, you know, recreate it. You know, when I go gig it and stuff like that as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of. Yeah.
But let's talk about it now because you've just opened the door very nicely there to the Curlew's Cry. So you've original and traditional songs there, inspired by folklore, personal memory, and the natural world.
Yeah.
All of which we've touched upon in this conversation. When you sent it to me a while back, when I finally got around to listen to it, because I kept it because I wanted to have time to really concentrate on it, and when I heard it, I just heard you coming. I don't know, just it was just you and your most authentic, real self, and there was so much power in it, Barry. I just thought you've got it, you've cracked it. This is it.
Thanks,
What did
Ellen,
what did it feel like to be, you know, in the process of recording this album? Did you feel that you were in that place? Did you know that this is?
I think it did. Like, I'd like I think like I went to record a few times, and you know, whatever it was that I had recorded, you know, after sitting on it for a while, I didn't know if it was what I wanted to put out. And this time around, I kind of just, right, I need somebody to give me a hand with this, because to get me over my own doubts and about myself or whatever, or doubts about the songs or whatever. So I had a yarn with Jerry O'Byrne. Jerry O'Byrne is one of Ireland's greatest guitarists, like and singers and songwriters, and he lives down in Dingle and Kerry, and I asked him would he come in just to kind of be there and try to. In the studio, it's very tempting to fix everything and to add all the bells and
bells, yeah.
yeah, and so to having Jerry there just to say, look, no, we don't need that, or keep that note there. You don't have to tune that, just leave it. Or, all of this thing. So as the process went on, it became very evident that I was going to end up with this record. That just and we talked about it and the sound that I wanted to have, and thankfully it ends up. It got there.
What's the symbolism of the curlew?
The curlew in Irish folklore, it's kind of a. It can be seen as a negative omen as well. It's one of these otherworldly sounds. When you hear a curlew, it's probably one of our most spooky sounding birds that we have, and the curlew at the minute is on the same path as the corncrake. It's endangered because of the nesting grounds that it would have once had have all been drained and taken from bog into farmland, and so they've been having a hard time of it. And I've seen that as kind of a reflection of what's happening in the environment. So you have this bird that people used to say was a connection with the she, or the fairy people, or it was also seen as an omen of bad weather, or so I wanted to tap into that idea, that using nature, and the symbolism that we have in our traditions, to reconnect us with what is happening in the wider world, and tapping into nature and those old stories, and I think it's kind of in the zeitgeist at the minute, to be honest. A lot of people seem to be reconnecting through the language. You've, God rest Malcolm McGann, the work that he was doing, reconnecting with our folklore and our stories, and I try to do it through song.
It's going back to that idea of understanding who we are, isn't it? That's what
Exactly,
people
yeah.
are they're seeking it out now.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Where you've been tapping into it just all along because you've understood that it's just so rooted in who you are the whole way through. And that said as well, the new album Barry shows a lifetime of friendship as well on it. And you've brought Kathy Jordan and Pauline Scanlon on to guest with you there. Like, there's something magical about your voice paired with these particular women.
Yeah.
What is it about Kathy and Pauline that works for you as people and singers?
Well, as people, they're unmatched, really. I've been a fan of Kathy's music all my life. I think Kathy just has a magic. She's from another time. She has the repertoire that she has, and that she has brought to life, and that she has. I was delighted to see her win Gradam there last year, but she brings life to old songs like no one can, I think. And I love her devilment and the crack out of her and all of that there too. So to have to actually write a song with Kathy this time was a great honour of my life, I think. She sent me the tune to the song and with the idea, and she says, "Well, would you throw a few words over the top of that?" And I'd be delighted to. So one of the songs came out of that, and then Pauline, I know Pauline a long time now too, and she's another hero. She's a great, just a fabulous singer and activist, and a good friend. So she's mighty woman. Yeah.
It's lovely to see is kind of reunited again, because she was very prominent on your Boy in a Boat album. That California to You, drift away to it every single summer. That is one of the summer anthems for me, Barry, always was. And then The Well Down in the Valley with
Yeah.
that Pauline recorded in her own album,
Yeah.
The Unquiet, like just the power and the depth and the layers that you uncovered in that song, and how you can go there. There's a real depth when the two of you get together.
Yeah.
As much as there is the beauty of California to you, you can take it anywhere.
That's right. Like Pauline and I, you know, we kind of are interested in the same kind of things. You know, she was a great interest in politics, and you know, she's very knowledgeable about what's going on in the world. You know, so we have deep and heavy chats sometimes about those sort of things, and so it's great. But I also loved singing with her, like whether it be in a session in a bar in Kerry or on a stage. You know, she is the best performer. Like, you know, she embodies everything that she sings about, and also is she has a skill where she can sit on whatever you're singing and just lock in like no one I've ever heard. You know, she has an emotional intelligence that kind of sits in the perfect place. You know, whether if you're singing together, it's a skill that she's worked on for a long time. You know, and she has it innately. Like, aye, that was great. And Pauline, we were lucky to have, you know, Pauline was around to drop in to record on those songs, and it wouldn't be the same without her. You know,
For sure. You mentioned politics there, and you've mentioned it a couple of times. And your songs, like, while you're observing, again, there's a lot of depth and a lot of grit to what you're saying, and a lot of really strong messaging in a lot of your songs. And particularly, I'm thinking of the likes of The World Looks Away.
Yeah.
You know, you wrote that song about Palestine years ago, Barry. And The World Looks Away could not be truer now in what we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That song always just came to my mind through the images we were seeing, you know, day and daily on our phones. The idea of being a singer of conscience, you know, where do you think that comes from? Where do you get the strength to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I feel that it's just my wee way of, you know, adding something to the conversation, and whatever, you know, way that I have to express myself, or you know, it might. I think art and music can be a very powerful way of saying something, you know, that can cut through a lot better sometimes and make people think more deeply than, you know, a headline on a newspaper, or a you know, some quip, you know, on a news channel or whatever. You know, I think art and music is a way of starting conversations and bringing people, you know, through to your point of view as well. You know, in this country, like, we have songs, lots of, you know, the greatest songs were political, and, you know, about the situations that happened here, and I grew up with all of those great songs. They're in my head and in my heart, and, you know, I hopefully I used whatever gift I may have to kind of say my bit as well, you know.
What gave you the confidence to do that, though? You know, and the security in yourself to be able to do that, because sometimes it's not easy for people to, you know, you're putting yourself out there in a way that others maybe don't feel comfortable doing so.
No, I remember, like, when I put that album out, The World Looks Away, I think people looked at me as if I was mad in the head, you know, because I was talking about these things that to some people were so far away and, you know, not relevant to their lives at the time or whatever. And now we look back and go, Jesus, you know, I wasn't far wrong there. So, not to be, you know, I don't know. I as I say, I feel like sometimes these songs come through, you know, come out, and, you know, I've written them, so, you know, I have to let people hear them or whatever. It's a strange one. As regards confidence, I don't think that's, you know, I'm as nervous about these songs as I was about those, you know, that album, the confidence thing, I don't know if that's has ever been the problem. You know, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about being a pop star. You know, I'm not worried about making a load of money. You know, I don't play music for that. If I did play music for money, I'd have given up years ago. You know, I don't write songs for that reward. You know, financially, it's not where I'm at. I'm actually allergic sometimes to that side of this. What if they call
Business.
it business?
Yeah.
You know, it's. I think we're part of some creative commons or some, you know, in traditional music that transcends all of that, I hope. And I think art and music does transcend those, you know, like we live in this world now where our music has been basically given away for free anyway, you know, so I feel like if I'm going to give it away, I might as well be singing about what I want to sing about, you know. I don't want to have to fit myself into that box of being this guy, or, you know, because this other guy wants to sell a load of records, you know what I mean? And I've been there in that world throughout my life, you know. I feel like I played in situations where I might have been compromising my own integrity with it, but that's part of the learning with it all, I think. You know, where I might have, you know, whatever show, or, you know, I might have been the hired guy to put the Celtic Mist over the top of
With the Allen pipes.
Yeah, with the pipes and flute, and, you know, to do a lot of that, you know, and that kind of grows old very quick, you know, even though it pays the bills and pay the mortgage or whatever, it kind of, I think you lose something on the other side of that too, you know. You know,
Well,
and, you know, when I talk to, you know, I look at a lot of young people now who are making, you know, a living, you know, with all of the great, you know, things that came out of Riverdance and all of that there. But I also like to tell them to be a wee bit careful with that too, you know. Don't forget themselves, and don't forget their actual music, you know, because it can be sucked out, you know, you can be sucked into that conveyor belt, you know, and it's not where the art is at anyway, I don't think, you know.
very good advice.
Yeah.
With all the songwriting and the, you know, music being just part of you, you're also an artist. What part of you taps into that? And, you know, and when do you find yourself painting?
I painting now for me is like, that's when I get up during the week, I get the wee man to school or whatever, and I go in and paint. I can do that with the painting a lot easier probably than trying to sit and write a song. Although they do cross over, and invariably I might have to do a painting for somebody and I'll end up writing a song, you know, so it's, you know, because I'm trying to avoid what I'm supposed to be doing, you know what I mean? So
Good old procrastination,
it's
eh?
like, so they kind of bounce off each other that way, and it ends up working out in some autistic kind of way. But they're one and the same for me. I kind of, the same things that inspire me to play music inspire me to paint, and I've been lucky enough that, you know, I've been able to do both, you know, and hopefully continue to do both. I'm living in Connemara now, and it's the most special place. Like, you know, it's beautiful. It's even in the depths of winter, you know, when a cloud comes in and stays for 3 weeks, there's still some beauty about it. You know, that is, you know, it's a very special place. Yeah.
How has living in Connemara and being immersed in that type of community, which you wouldn't have grown up in, as in the Irish language speaking community, how has that changed you?
Well, Tommy Folum, name my life of fós, it's brala me, like the language is my missing link, I think, you know, so it's the thing that I have to do for myself, and I've been trying for years. Getting there, I kind of can understand a lot more than I used to. But being part of that community and being accepted too, because you know, the kind of most people know, that's the musician, you know, that's your man, you know. So, and music in Connemara is a big thing, you know. It's part of life, you know. It's still there in every day, you know, whether it be the dancing, the shanno singing, you know, or the music itself. It's still very, very alive, and it's part of everyday life. Like the box player gets as much respect as the local priest. You know what I mean? It's kind of like more so sometimes. You know? It's kind of it's fabulous. It's, to me, it's like living in a dream. Yeah.
And then the landscape and that, does that inform your art?
It does. It you know, a lot of my paintings come out of that. A lot of my recent work has kind of been a little more abstract, but it also very much inspired by the sea and the coast. You know, it's a great well of inspiration.
Oh, to have a well that never runs dry.
That's it. Yeah.
In all aspects of it, Barry, it seems like, you know, you've just been drawn from that well for so long, and you just keep going and keep finding the inspiration, all the while accidentally tapping into the zeitgeist. But it's been great to chat to you today.
Thanks a million. Hopefully made sense.
It was great. Thanks a million, and all the best with the new album, The Curlew's Cry, out now. Check it out. Preferably on Bandcamp, folks. Let's do that. Yeah. And if you've liked what you've heard today on Music at Maddens, there are loads more episodes still available on Spotify and Apple, and also you can watch us on YouTube if you haven't been already. Thanks a million to Barry Kerr, Mila Boy Barry, and we will see you again next week. Slan.